I'm Natalie, a divorced woman with a college-age daughter, Nina, who lives a bit away from me. Nina, now in college, is about to turn 21, and she's coming home to celebrate her birthday with us. As evening falls, my new husband, Jeffrey, and his son, Dominic, join us to complete the family gathering. Nina, welcome back. Happy 21st birthday. Here, this is for you. Dominic has always looked out for Nina, often buying her cute outfits on various occasions. What, really? Dominic brings a gift bag over to her and hands it to her with a smile. Go on, open it. Nina, though a bit tense, opens the bag. Inside is a stylish, boyish trench coat, just the kind Nina would love. Her face lights up instantly. This is amazing. I'll cherish it. Thank you so much. Dominic looks delighted to see her so happy. The next day, as Nina heads back to her apartment, she's wearing the coat proudly. I guess the next time we'll see you will be for Christmas? You'll come home, right? Yes, that's the plan. Christmas arrives, and I get a message from Nina saying she'll be coming back. I head out to pick her up at the station. Since both Jeffrey and Dominic are busy with work during this season, I go to meet her on my own. I thought for sure Nina would be wearing that coat. The idea made me feel so excited. Soon, I saw Nina coming out of the station entrance, but she wasn't wearing the coat Dominic had given her. Welcome home. What happened to that coat? It's so your style. I thought for sure you'd be wearing it. As I ask, I see Nina's face turn pale. Oh, that coat. Maybe you'll understand if you try wearing it yourself. What do you mean? My ex-husband was a man who neglected his family. He adored Nina, his only daughter, but he was far more dedicated to his career. I can't take it anymore. Let's get divorced. Natalie, what about Nina? What are you planning for her? Of course, I'll take care of her. He was so wrapped up in his work that he was rarely home, always off to business dinners every night. On the rare occasions he did come home, he'd bring colleagues or juniors with him, expecting me to cook for them. And then there were all those business trips, where he'd blow through money that should have gone to the household. Our lives were a mess. I grew tired of it all, and that led us to this final conversation. We both have things we could say, but maybe this is just how it has to be. Thank you for everything. Thank you as well. Now a different, challenging chapter is set to begin, but at least my heart feels a sense of calm. Several years have passed since then, and I now find myself at dinner with Jeffrey Evans, a client from the company I currently work for. I had been dating Jeffrey for about a year, and he had met Nina, who was in elementary school at the time, several times. The two of them got along well, often laughing together, sometimes even without me in the conversation. Jeffrey, slightly older than me, is a true gentleman, considerate, attentive, and with a warm smile that lights up the room. That night, we were enjoying a casual conversation, sharing a lovely evening together. Suddenly, Jeffrey's expression grew serious. Jeffrey, is something on your mind? Natalie, there's something I need to ask you. His earnest gaze made my heart skip a beat. Will you marry me? Just moments earlier, there had been no hint of this question, yet the room seemed to hush and brighten all at once. It was my second proposal, and though I was momentarily taken aback, I answered without hesitation, yes. There was no applause from the restaurant patrons, but a few warm smiles and glances from those nearby made me feel both shy and incredibly happy. Oh, thank goodness. I was so worried you'd turn me down. No way. I was just a bit surprised, but I'm thrilled. That's a relief. Proposing doesn't get any easier, does it? Heck no, it really doesn't. My heart's racing just as much. And just as I said that, I could feel my pulse quicken, my heart pounding with joy. A little while later, the day finally came when we'd be living under the same roof. "Hello, I've heard a lot about you from my dad. Sorry it took so long to meet, but from now on, I look forward to being part of the family." Jeffrey has a 20-year-old son, Dominic. Dominic works for a company that has him traveling frequently, so this was the first time we'd actually met. Unlike Jeffrey, who is warm and approachable, Dominic seemed cooler and a bit reserved, with a polite but distant demeanor. "Likewise, it's nice to meet you." "Nice to meet you too, Nina." "Right. No need to be formal. Just relax." Despite his initial distant impression, Dominic's consideration for Nina quickly put my worries at ease. As for me, I hoped we could gradually grow closer over time as a family. But to do that, I realized I needed to understand Dominic better. I decided I'd find the right moment to ask Jeffrey more about Dominic. That night, Nina went to bed early since she had school the next day, and Dominic, with an upcoming business trip, also turned in early. Left alone with Jeffrey, we enjoyed a quiet moment in the dining room over a glass of wine, discussing our hopes for the future. Then I remembered Dominic and decided to ask Jeffrey more about him. Dominic seems like a very polite young man. What was he like growing up? Honestly, not much different from how he is now. But, Jeffrey hesitated, his expression growing solemn before he continued slowly. His mother passed away 3 years ago due to illness. At an age when he really needed someone, he lost his closest support. And since Dominic was actually my stepson, it's still a bit of a delicate relationship. This was something Jeffrey had never shared with me before, and I was a bit taken aback. "I'm sorry. This is something I probably should have told you earlier." "No, it's all right. In fact, that means you and I share a similar situation." "Yes, we do. I need to make an effort to connect with him as well. And now you have me. Let's do our best together." "Thank you." Though the story was difficult to hear, I felt relieved that we could share these private fears and understand each other better. As we settled into our new life as a family, I started to feel a small concern growing in my heart. Dominic and I didn't have much in common, and with his frequent business trips, there were barely any opportunities to talk. At this rate, it felt impossible to truly get to know him. On the other hand, he seemed to be building a good relationship with Nina, bringing her cute outfits with ruffles and ribbons each time he returned from a trip. Nina appreciated his gestures, and the initial awkwardness I felt toward Dominic faded as I saw how much he cared for her. At the same time, I felt a little guilty, knowing he was putting in so much effort for her. He was clearly trying to make this sibling relationship work. However, things started to shift once Nina entered middle school. "Hey, what happened to all those clothes Dominic gave you?" I don't know. They're just a little too cute for me now. Lately, I'm into a more boyish style." Nina's taste in clothes started to become clear once she entered middle school. She began avoiding the cute outfits she used to enjoy, favoring a more tomboyish style. Sure enough, she now wore pants more often than skirts, and her style had shifted from cute to cool. I felt increasingly guilty toward Dominic, but personal taste is a matter of preference, and there was little that could be done about it. Dominic, however, made his frustration clear as he watched Nina. It did feel wrong to disregard the clothes he went out of his way to buy. I fought the same way, too. But Dominic was more than just frustrated. He became outright moody, even confronting Nina with, "Where's the clothes I bought you?" when she didn't wear them. Each time, Nina would struggle to respond, and I'd step in, only to receive a cold, piercing look from him. It felt like his eyes were saying, "This doesn't concern you." Every time he looked at me that way, I felt a twinge of fear. It was a dark, unreadable gaze that left me uneasy. Nina, for her part, seemed increasingly irritated by his confrontations. She tried not to show it too much, but Dominic's persistence didn't wane. Fortunately, with his frequent business trips, these clashes weren't overly common. Over time, Nina learned to avoid the conflict by wearing the clothes he bought whenever he was around. He'd return from trips with his arms full of shopping bags, proudly presenting them to her with a broad smile. I couldn't quite understand what drove him to such lengths, and it left me feeling quite puzzled. Eventually, I decided I'd ask him directly about it. "Dominic, can I ask you something?" "Sure, what is it?" When we spoke like this, he was polite and attentive, yet that cold stare was hard to forget. "Why do you keep buying so many clothes for Nina?" "Oh, that," he replied with a sigh, as if it wasn't a topic he wanted to discuss. "I just want her to wear them. I want us to get along better, you know." Didn't he see that this was having the opposite effect lately? I decided not to press the issue, as I sensed it might anger him. "Dominic, you've already done so much. You don't need to push yourself for Nina's sake. It's fine, I enjoy it." It seemed that even subtle hints weren't going to get through to him. "All right, just don't overdo it, okay?" Time went by, and Nina entered high school. Wanting a fresh start, she cut her hair short, just above her shoulders. Her face was petite, and the boyish haircut suited her well, giving her a fresh and confident look. Excited to show it off, I called Jeffrey and Dominic to see Nina's new look. "Look, here's Nina with her short hair. Doesn't she look great?" "Stop it, Mom, you're embarrassing me." But before I could even finish speaking, Dominic suddenly erupted in anger. "Why did you cut your hair? You're a girl. You should dress and look like one." He stormed out of the living room without another word. The incident left both me, Nina, and even Jeffrey utterly speechless. What just happened? Nina was too shocked to respond. "Sorry, I've never seen Dominic raise his voice like that," Jeffrey murmured, visibly shaken. We were all at a complete loss. Jeffrey, suddenly remembering something, stood up and went after Dominic. I instinctively pulled Nina into a hug. "It's okay. Don't worry, honey. Mom's here for you." "Mom, he's a little scary." I felt the same unease about Dominic, but I couldn't find the words to reassure her. The next day, Dominic returned home with something in a shopping bag, which he handed to Nina without a word. What is this?" Nina asked, her voice hesitant. "A wig. Make sure you wear it whenever I'm around." Inside the bag was a wig, just about the same length as her hair before she cut it. I still didn't understand the reason, but it was clear Dominic wanted Nina to look more girlish and cute. I couldn't help but feel there was something disturbingly obsessive about this. From that moment on, Dominic began to closely monitor Nina's appearance, frequently commenting on her outfits. Concerned, Nina and I decided to speak with Jeffrey. "I'm really sorry, but I don't know what's going on either. Like I mentioned, I've never seen Dominic act this way." I tried asking him, but he wouldn't explain. "Hey, Nina, maybe you should consider choosing a college farther away. That way, you could live independently, and Dominic wouldn't have so much influence over you. That might be a good idea. Don't worry about the money. Just focus on finding a place where you can be comfortable." Okay. For the remainder of high school, Nina largely went along with Dominic's preferences when it came to her clothes. Eventually, as planned, she applied to a university far from home. She passed the entrance exam, marking the beginning of a new chapter in her life. Finally, A chance to break free from the strange hold Dominic seemed to have over her had arrived. While in college, Nina celebrated her 21st birthday, and she decided to come home for the occasion. Naturally, she came back wearing the wig. "I'm home. Welcome back." I still didn't understand why any of this was necessary, and my unease only grew. By evening, the entire family was gathered together. "Nina, welcome home." "Thanks. It's nice to be home." Without the focus on her appearance, Dominic would seem like a calm, quiet young man, but seeing her dressed to his preferences, I felt a sense of dread, knowing how he could transform. "Happy 21st birthday. Here, this is for you." "Thank you." Dominic handed her a gift bag. Jeffrey and I exchanged a look. We both had a sense of where this was headed, and it was difficult to watch. Nina, to her credit, had grown up a bit and no longer showed the same irritation as before, but there was still a hint of fear in her eyes, almost as though she felt a tightness around her throat. "Go on, open it." At this point, it felt like she had no choice but to do as he said. Nina, her face tense, carefully opened the bag. Inside was a stylish, boyish trench coat, exactly the type Nina would love. Her face lit up instantly. "All this time, I just wanted you to wear things I liked. But I realized I was wrong. I got this because I thought you'd really enjoy it." Yes, it's wonderful. I'll cherish it." "Thank you." Dominic looked pleased as he watched her reaction. Seeing this scene, I felt both a sense of relief and nostalgia. It felt like a weight had been lifted, knowing we no longer had to worry about those strange tensions. Jeffrey seemed to feel the same as he looked at me, and we shared a small, relieved smile. As Nina left to head back to her place, she wore the coat proudly. "Will we see you again for Christmas? You'll come back, right?" "Yes, that's the plan. I'll drive you to the station." "Really?" "Thank you, Dad." Nina, in high spirits, called Jeffrey Dad for the first time since I'd known her. Jeffrey beamed as he gladly got the car ready. Despite all the troubles with Dominic, things finally seemed to settle down. For the first time, I felt like we had truly become a family. When Christmas arrived, I got a message from Nina saying she was coming home, so I took the car to pick her up at the station. Since both Jeffrey and Dominic were busy with work during the holiday season, I went to meet her on my own. I expected Nina would be wearing that coat. Last time, she wore it at home with the wig, but today I'd finally see her in her natural short hair with the coat. I was sure it would suit her perfectly. The anticipation made me feel genuinely excited. I arrived at the station and checked the clock. She'd be here any moment. Soon enough, I saw Nina emerging from the station entrance, but she wasn't wearing the trench coat Dominic had given her. "Welcome home. What happened to the coat? I thought for sure you'd be wearing it. It's so your style." My question was simple and natural, but her response was hesitant, her words faltering. "Oh, that coat. You'd understand if you tried wearing it." Her face grew paler by the second. "What do you mean?" Once Nina climbed into the passenger seat and confirmed the back seat was empty, she began to explain. "That coat. It had a GPS tracker and a listening device hidden inside." Her confession left me utterly speechless. I didn't know what to say either. "How did you find out?" I asked cautiously, and Nina slowly recounted the story. "Whenever I wore that coat, Dominic would almost always appear, like he knew where I was. It didn't make sense, especially with me being so far away for school. At first, he'd say he was just on a business trip nearby, but it kept happening." As she spoke, a chill ran down my spine, and I couldn't stop shaking. So I checked a coat out of suspicion, and I found a small device. I haven't worn it since. The culprit could only be Dominic. More than anger, it was sheer terror that washed over me, making my skin crawl. This wasn't something to take lightly. I knew I needed to inform Jeffrey as soon as possible, even if it meant interrupting him at work. You've got to be kidding. Dominic did that. When I told Jeffrey everything Nina had shared, he sounded deeply shocked, struggling to find the words. I had hoped he, as Dominic's father, could handle the situation, but it was clear from his reaction that this might be too much for him. Only now, a surge of anger finally overwhelmed the fear I had been feeling. No matter what it took, I was determined to hold Dominic accountable. I couldn't let him get away with making my daughter experience such terror. Reluctantly, I decided to reach out to someone from my past. What? He did what? As I expected, my ex-husband, who had always doted on Nina, was furious. He had always adored Nina, and it was clear that his feelings hadn't changed even now. I don't know what he was thinking, but he's going to regret making Nina feel that way. Use the coat. If he's tracking her, we can lure him in. Let's meet at the station near our house at 7 p.m. Got it. I'll drop everything to be there. A little after 7 p.m. at the station. Just as planned, Dominic showed up, unaware of who would be waiting for him. Oh, Natalie. What are you doing here? I'm here for you. And you must be. Dominic began, looking at my ex-husband in confusion. Wait. I know you. You're Mr. Evans. What? Dominic stared in disbelief before whispering. My boss. You know him? I asked, surprised. Know him? He's one of our employees. The one following Nina. It's you, isn't it? My ex-husband's face tightened with fury, veins bulging as he held up the evidence. Here's your proof. Now explain yourself. No. It was just a coincidence. Dominic stammered, his face stricken with panic. Enough excuses. I've heard how you've been stalking Nina. Just admit everything. Realizing he was cornered, Dominic reluctantly began to explain, visibly shaken. Years ago, I was obsessed with a teen idol, but she grew up and changed her style. Then Nina appeared. She looked just like that idol when I adored her the most. At last, the disturbing puzzle pieces started falling into place. I just wanted Nina to stay cute, like the idol I remembered. So I kept buying her things, hoping she'd wear them. That's all it was. Now I understood why he'd reacted so angrily when she cut her hair. If it had stopped there, perhaps I could have found it within me to forgive him. But then, so what's the GPS tracker and listening device for? That's because Nina went so far away. I just wanted her to stay close. And why do you think she had to move so far in the first place? She was terrified because of your constant demands. How dare you put her through this over something so trivial? My ex-husband seethed, his voice shaking with rage. Then, suddenly calm, he took a step closer to Dominic. By the way, tell me, that's a nice coat. Did you pay for it yourself? No, I mean, I didn't use company funds. Dominic stammered. I tilted my head, catching the implication. Oh, no one mentioned anything about missing company funds. So that's your doing too. What's going on? I asked. Exactly what you just heard. There's been talk at work about money going missing, and it looks like we've found our culprit. Following the conversation, it became clear that the trench coat had been bought with embezzled company money. No, I didn't. There's no proof. At this point, I was so exasperated that I had nothing left to say. Mr. Evans, you won't need to come into work anymore. Just then, Jeffrey emerged from the shadows, having listened to the entire exchange. So, everything you just said is true, isn't it? Dad, I would never. You've got to believe me. No. While I'm sorry about the money, that's not what matters. What matters is whether you hurt my daughter Nina. Hurt her? I just wanted to be close to her. I disown you. No, this can't be." And just like that, Dominic lost both his family and his job in a single night. It turned out he had indeed been embezzling company funds, a fact that quickly became public knowledge. As my ex-husband said, Dominic was fired, and he now faced a court case. His foolish actions had cost him everything. Later, in a quiet moment with Nina, she revealed that she'd never been able to enjoy her personal style. Worse yet, her stepbrother's obsessive behavior had left her with a deep fear of men. As her mother, I couldn't help but blame myself, wishing I had realized sooner what she was going through. The truth was, I had noticed what was happening all along, but I hadn't acted. That shame and regret were almost unbearable. But there was no point in dwelling on what had happened. Now, even if it's a little late, I resolved to let Nina enjoy her life and pursue whatever she wanted. Then one day, Nina came to me with a proposal. "Mom, I want to go to a school where I can study fashion." Perhaps it was a reaction to all the restrictions her stepbrother had placed on her. Or maybe it was because she finally felt free from the fear she had been carrying. Nina had started expressing her own desires more openly. I wanted to support her in doing all the things she hadn't been able to. So, with that in mind, Nina and I approached Jeffrey together. "Please," Nina asked, her voice full of hope. "I'm asking too," I added. Jeffrey, perhaps feeling some responsibility as well, immediately agreed. "Of course. I want you to pursue everything you couldn't before. Really. Thank you so much, Dad, Mom." After that, it was as if she'd become a new person. Alongside her college assignments, she threw herself into studying fashion with incredible intensity. Her passion was so inspiring that it even made me consider trying something new myself. With her clothing and hairstyle, she now embraced her preferred cool style, and each day, she looked genuinely happy. Before long, she successfully transferred into her dream fashion design school. More than ever, she was embracing her individuality and beginning to walk her own path. "How about this? Isn't it cool?" she asked one day, showing off her latest look. "Yes, it suits you perfectly. Short hair and a boyish style really are your thing." "Right. I have an amazing sense of style." She laughed. When she talked about fashion, she truly was shining. Maybe you should take over my fashion choices," Jeffrey joked. "I always end up wearing the same things." "Of course. How about we go shopping together soon?" "What, am I left out?" I teased. "Of course not, Mom. You're coming with us." Sometime after transferring to fashion school, I was surprised when Nina told me she had a boyfriend. She described him as someone who respected her individuality, which reassured me even more. Jeffrey was so moved by the news that he got a bit teary-eyed. I wondered how my ex-husband would react when he heard. We had faced so many challenges up to this point, and maybe that's why, now more than ever, I hoped from the bottom of my heart that Nina's path ahead would be filled with happiness.
My name is Emily. I'm 31 years old. I work as a benefits planner for a life insurance company. It's a global business, and the pay is decent. Since I visit various companies for work, I have opportunities to meet people, including men. However, recently one of these acquaintances put me through a terrible ordeal. Because of his greed for money, he ruined a significant milestone in my life. Today, I'd like to share the story of that unfortunate event. I lost both my parents in a car accident when I was in elementary school. My maternal grandparents raised me. I attended local public schools for middle and high school, and then went to a somewhat expensive college. My grandparents, who didn't have much money, took out loans so I could go to college. After I got a job, I took over the remaining debt. As a result, I was a bit strapped for cash when I met David through a mutual work connection. David laughed when I nervously shared my financial situation with him. "I'm in a similar boat. Still paying off student loans," he said. "So, we're the debt repayment couple, huh?" "Exactly. I'd love to be debt-free as soon as possible." During our time dating, I was incredibly happy with David. We didn't have a lot of disposable income, but every day was fulfilling. Over the 3 years we dated, David kept getting promotions. His company valued ambition and talent, so he moved up quickly. As David's income improved, so did the quality of our relationship. I also picked up the pace on my debt repayment, not wanting to be left behind. David always had kind words for me. "Don't push yourself too hard, Emily. If you collapse, I'll be ruined too. You're the reason I can work hard like this." "Thank you. It's nice to hear that. Don't push yourself too hard either. You're the reason I can keep going too." We supported each other emotionally, helping each other get through our tough daily jobs. Looking back, that period of my life was fulfilling and purposeful. During this high point in our lives, David finally proposed to me. "I want you by my side forever, as partners supporting each other." "I'm so happy." "Thank you. Likewise, I look forward to our future together." We decided to rent a new condo and move in together. Both of us earning well, I felt our relationship strengthened. That's the vibe I got. This was a little before we actually started living together. I met David's parents. They were thrilled to meet me. According to them, David scored a beautiful and talented woman who graduated from a good university. I remember feeling awkward, yet flattered by their compliments. I didn't have parents, and my grandparents who raised me were already in a nursing home. So, I decided David should meet my high school best friend, Melissa. We met at a cafe near Melissa's condo. "Nice to meet you, I'm David. Happy to finally meet you." "I'm Melissa. Emily told me a lot about you. Please take good care of her, she can be vulnerable at times." Melissa is the same age as me, but she's incredibly stable and reliable. I was always the little sister figure, leaning on her for support. The big turning point came a few months after this initial cafe meeting. And once again, Melissa would come to my aid. In any case, introducing David to my best friend went off without a hitch. David and I then decided it was time to dive into wedding planning. Around the time we began planning, David's work started demanding more of him. Even on days we planned to go dress shopping, urgent calls would come in. "I have to work this weekend. I know it's a big day for us. I'm really sorry." "It's okay. I'll try on the dresses, snap some pictures, and we can pick one later." "Thank you. I'd rather be there in person, but I appreciate the gesture." David was genuinely busy around this time. He was working almost every weekend and even had work trips during the week. I was pretty much planning the wedding by myself, which was exhausting since I had my job too. But all the hard work paid off. The ceremony and the reception exceeded our expectations. My coworkers livened up the party with performances, and Melissa gave a touching speech. My grandparents, who are in a nursing home, sent their blessings through a video message. After waving goodbye to the last of our guests, David and I finally had a moment to relax in the backstage room. I remember David casually checking his phone right after our small talk. The surprised look on his face, David left the table while on the phone. I thought he might be having some work trouble. But little did I know, something was changing behind the scenes. A change big enough to affect both David's and my life. In the backyard of the venue, there was a steep staircase for staff use. In my gown, I had to pass by those stairs to change. The staff were distracted by someone calling from across the hallway. I think it was in that moment when I was off guard. My body flew through the air. Someone screamed. A powerful impact. And a series of intense pain overwhelmed me. I fell down the steep stairs in my gown and lost consciousness. When I came to, I was lying in a hospital bed. Bandages were wrapped around my arms and legs, and I was bruised and scraped all over. No broken bones, just bruises and contusions, and thankfully, my brain activity was normal. The nurse explained that I had fallen down the stairs at the venue. I had no idea how it happened. A few hours later, an even more puzzling event unfolded. David, who had come into my hospital room, suddenly broke up with me. "You're useless to me now. Here's $30,000 as a settlement."
What? Wait a minute. What's going on? Explain yourself.
"Just lie down and shut up. You'll make your injuries hurt. I told you, you're useless to me now. I've found another woman I love. I'm marrying her." "Sorry, Emily. Are you kidding me? We just had our wedding ceremony. And now this." "But we haven't filed the marriage certificate yet. Was waiting for our anniversary to file the paperwork. Turns out, it was the right call. Never thought this would happen." David looked genuinely happy. He couldn't care less about my injuries or suffering. "I'll give you all the wedding gifts as a get-well-soon present. Bye."
Wait, David! David!
He didn't hear me. David left, laughing. I cried, clinging to Melissa, who had come to visit me. Tears streaming down my face, I told her everything. Melissa silently patted my head, listening until the end. "It's been so tough. I'm furious that this happened to you, Emily. Focus on healing for now. I'll look for the culprit." "The culprit?" "Yes, the culprit. The person who pushed you down those stairs. I suspect it's David. He's definitely off. He was even laughing." "Laughing? When?" "I was waiting for you to change so we could leave together. Then ambulances showed up, and it was chaos. They said you had fallen down the stairs. That's when I saw it. As they were carrying you, he had this nasty smile on his face." Just imagining it sent chills down my spine. Did David push me down the stairs? What could he possibly gain from it? Anyway, I decided to focus on healing, just like Melissa advised me. As my physical wounds began to heal, so did the wounds of my heart. My deep sorrow turned into fierce anger. I couldn't rest until the responsible parties were held accountable. My heart, once soaring with happiness, now became consumed with thoughts of revenge. A few weeks later, Melissa and I lured David to a cafe. We had gathered all the evidence we needed and were ready for payback. I was set on getting even. David seemed different than when we were dating. He was dressed flamboyantly and was wearing accessories that he never wore before. In a good mood, David handed me an envelope.
What's this? A stack of cash? What's the meaning of this?
It's a get-well gift. Good to see that both your scars and bruising have healed up.
How generous of you. Do tell, what brought this on?
Yeah, why don't you explain yourself? Why did you betray Emily? David's smirk only became more nauseating. He looked so smug that it was creepy. Actually, the woman I've been seeing won $10 million in the lottery.
$10 million?
Yes. So, what's 10K or 20K to me now? Apparently, David had been involved with another woman even before we were married. She hit the jackpot right after our wedding ceremony. David changed his mind after learning about it. And in a fit of excitement, he pushed me down the stairs. He must have thought he could smoothly transition into a new life with her once I was out of the picture. What a selfish man. I felt the flames of revenge burn deep within me.
I can't forgive you. I'll report you to the police.
Whoa there. Don't make it sound like I pushed you. There's no evidence.
The staff said you slipped and fell.
True, that's what the staff testified. But they only reported what they saw. Melissa had done her own in-depth investigation.
I asked the venue staff to show me all the security footage. On one of the tapes, there's a brief moment that shows a hand pushing Emily's back.
Startled, Melissa showed David her phone. It was a freeze frame of the moment of the crime.
The color of the perpetrator's clothes. It matches the frock coat you were wearing. Nobody else at the venue was wearing that color that day. No way, you've got to be kidding.
Gone was his earlier confidence. David began to tremble and turned pale. He seemed to have given up. He came forward and apologized deeply.
Please, I beg you. Don't tell anyone. Just spare me from the police. So you admit you're a criminal. Will you turn yourself in, or should I call the authorities? What's it going to be? Damn it!
David left the cafe with us and immediately turned himself in at the nearest police station. He tried to hire a lawyer for a settlement, but I refused. In the end, David was charged, found guilty, and fined. I also didn't forget to go after David's mistress, whose name I got from him, Rebecca. I called her to meet me, fully intending to get an elaborate apology. To my surprise, she showed up at the cafe in rather plain clothes. My memory was still vivid with David's flashiness the day we reunited. I had thought the one who won the $10M would be just as flashy. I'm really sorry for the trouble I've caused because of me.
Well, he was blinded by your $10M, too.
About that $10M. Rebecca revealed a shocking truth to me. I couldn't help but believe her tearful plea. She apologized many times. After that, without saying a word to David, she quietly disappeared. Several weeks later, I got a call from David on my mobile phone. He wanted to meet and talk. He seemed pretty desperate. Of course, I understood why. When I met David again, he was much more modestly dressed than before.
I can't get in touch with Rebecca. Do you know where she is?
Why would I know where your $10 million lady is?
Right, yeah. Listen, Emily, I've given you a total of $40K, right? No, actually $60K if we include the compensation.
Is that so? I hardly remember.
Can you return half of that money? Or even just $10K?
No.
But I do have some valuable information to gift you. Information?
Yes, information that's very important for you. I took out my mobile phone and played a pre-recorded video. David's eyes widened. It was Rebecca. I had recorded her before she left town. David, I have to apologize to you. I'm really sorry. The story about me winning $10M in the lottery was a lie. I lied because I couldn't bear the thought of you marrying someone else.
A lie? The whole $10 million story was a lie.
I'm truly sorry. I just apologized to Emily as well. I plan to disappear from this town. I can't tell you where I'm going. I'm really sorry for ruining both of your lives. David was stunned, speechless for a long time after the video ended. He looked completely shocked. It wasn't funny when I thought about being in his shoes. Pushing your spouse down the stairs for a non-existent $10,000. Fooled by a lie, impulsively committing a crime, and losing $60,000 including the compensation. Who would want to live their life thinking they're such a pathetic person? Leaving David as he was, head down and immobile, I walked out of the cafe gripping the receipt. That was a few days after our encounter at the cafe. My phone buzzed again. Another call from David. Look, I've come to my senses. I was wrong. Can we start over?
You've got some nerve, spouting lines like that. Especially after you messed up a chapter of my life.
The real culprit here is Rebecca for lying to me. If she hadn't lied.
Hadn't lied? So you wouldn't have pushed me down the stairs, blinded by greed? Cut it out. You were already the worst when you cheated on me. Who would give a man like you a second chance?
Those $10 million from Rebecca exposed the real David. In that sense, I could almost thank her for her lie. It saved me from wasting my life on a worthless man. David tried to keep the conversation going, desperate to keep me on the line. It was a pathetic and futile struggle. I ended the call, feeling like I was pushing away someone who was desperately chasing after me. David had quit his job long ago, banking on Rebecca's $10 million lie. Now, it seemed he had to find new work. Melissa told me this as we shared drinks at my place over the weekend. She'd run into David in town and heard it straight from him. He can't get steady work because of his criminal record.
Last I saw him, he was delivering food on a bike.
So, he's doing delivery? Sounds like gig work. Seems that way. He's doing whatever he can find. Melissa shared some of David's job-hopping history. Traffic control for roadwork, janitorial services, lunchbox factory staff, warehouse worker.
He looked worn out, all tanned and sunburned. I told him this is karma for betraying Emily, and he nodded. If he's aware, that's good. I hope he continues to repent for the rest of his life.
Would you consider starting over with him if the chance came?
No way! A man who'd push a bride down the stairs in her wedding dress? Are you kidding?
Melissa and I laughed heartily at that. Even if he threw $10 million my way, I'd still decline. A few days later, David contacted me again.
Can you lend me $100? I'm really struggling here. No way. Please, don't contact me again. And no following me. If you do, I'm going to the police.
Wait, Emily. I'm really sorry.
Don't you dare call me by my first name.
I hung up and immediately blocked David's number. If he crosses a line, I have no problem reporting him. My post-David life has been pretty smooth. I got a good settlement, and he even paid for the venue. My grandparents in the nursing home and my coworkers all sympathize with me. Which is to be expected. Anyone would feel sorry for a bride betrayed right after her wedding. But I'm not overly pessimistic about my current situation. My career is thriving, and my personal life is fulfilling. Melissa and I are even thinking of going to a singles event. Having a divorce history isn't going to hold me back. I'm strong enough to make my fall down the stairs a talking point. Life has so much more in store. I'm going to find someone amazing and build a happy home.